Into this house my father had brought my mother, a frail and beautiful bride. On the morning of January 4th, 1925, my mother was attacked by a labor pains. At 9 that evening, she gave birth to a small baby weighing 5 pounds and 6 ounces. On the evening of the 7th day, the infant was clothed in undergarments of flannel and cream-colored silk and a kimono of silk crepe with a splashed pattern. In the presence of the assembled household, my grandfather drew my name on a strip of ceremonial paper and placed it on an offertory stand in the tokonoma. My hair was blondish for a long time, but they kept putting olive oil on it until it finally turned black. My parents lived on the second floor of the house. On the present pretext that it was hazardous to raise a child on an upper floor, my grandmother snatched me from my mother's arms on my 49th day. My bed was placed in my grandmother's sick room, perpetually closed and stifling with odors of sickness and old age, and I was raised there beside her sick bed. When about 1 year old, I fell from the third step of the stairway and injured my forehead. My grandmother had gone to the theater, and my father's cousins and my mother were noisily enjoying the respite. My mother had had occasion to take something up to the second floor. Following her, I had become entangled in the trailing skirt of her kimono and had fallen. My grandmother was summoned by telephone from the kabuki theater. When she arrived, my grandfather went out to meet her. She stood in the entryway without taking her shoes off, leaning on the cane that she carried in her right hand, and stared fixedly at my grandfather. When she spoke, it was in a strangely calm tone of voice, as though carving out each word. "Is he dead?" "No." Then, taking off her shoes and stepping up from the entryway, she walked down the corridor with steps as confident as those of a priestess. On a New Year's morning, just prior to my 4th birthday, I vomited something the color of coffee. The family doctor was called. After examining me, he said he was not sure I would recover. I was given injections of camphor and glucose until I was like a pincushion. The pulses of both my wrist and upper arm became imperceptible. 2 hours passed. They stood looking down at my corpse. A shroud was made ready, my favorite toys collected, and all relatives gathered. Almost another hour passed, and then suddenly urine appeared. My mother's brother, who was a doctor, said, "He's alive." He said it showed that the heart had resumed beating. A little later, urine appeared again. Gradually, the vague light of life revived in my cheeks. That illness, auto-intoxication, became chronic with me. It struck about once a month, now lightly, now seriously. I encountered many crises. By the sound of the disease's footsteps as it drew near, I came to be able to sense whether an attack was likely to approach death or not. My earliest memory, an unquestionable one, haunting me with a strangely vivid image, dates from about that time. I do not know whether it was my mother, a nurse, a maid, or an aunt who was leading me by the hand, nor is the season of the year distinct. Afternoon sunshine, was falling dimly on the houses along the slope. Led by the hand of the unremembered woman, I was climbing the slope toward home. Someone was coming down the slope, and the woman jerked my hand. We got out of the way and stood waiting at one side.